Parak Mem Dalad. We're holding it in the middle of the parak. Just 2 points about last week. The first one is we mentioned that the Medrash said that you're not allowed to, the Chazan is not allowed to start. The Shliach Tzibur is also lispalal im ein sham shnayim oimdim, unless there's two people standing on Pashas means standing on his side, and Pashas we're talking about a Chazan. So we spoke barichos about that last week, but I neglected to mention the Radal brings from the Meiri a different pshat. That the Medrash is really talking about a tennis tzibur, like some of the Mepharshim we said last week, that's talking about specifically a tennis tzibur, but it's talking about that you're not allowed to daven the tefillos of a tennis tzibur unless, besides the chazan, there's two other people that are also fasting. That's how he understands this Medrash. Okay, I didn't mention that pshat. That's one nekuda. The second nekuda is all the way at the end of last week's shir. So we brought down the pasuk of Kiad al Keis Ka Milchama LaHashem B'Amalek. So I said I got a little bit carried away and I said that that's the last pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze in the Parshas Zachar or whatever, but it's not true. I made a mistake. Really, it's the last pasuk in Parshas Bishalach when it's talking about the story of Milchamas Amalek when they attacked the Jews. When they were leaving Mitzrayim. So really it's the last pasuk, not of Parshas Zachar, but really the last pasuk of the Kriyas HaTorah that we read on Purim, which is Vayavoy Amalek. So that's the last pasuk in Parshas Bishalach. Fine, let's start. Rabbi Pinchas Omer. Rabbi Pinchas says, Achar Arboim Shana, after 40 years, meaning after the Jews have been in the desert for 40 years, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to remind the Jews and tell them, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to remind them, give them musar about what they said 40 years prior, that they said Hayesh Hashem b'Kibbeinu im Oyin, is there Hashem in our midst or not? And we said last week that was the pasuk that's written right before the story of Amalek, and the story of Amalek was the consequences of Bnei Yisrael doubting the hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to remind them about that avera, maybe to give them chizuk so they won't do such a thing again. And we do find that in Parshas Devarim, Moshe Rabbeinu gives Klal Yisrael teichacha on different stories that happened in the Midbar through the 40 years. Elu Devarim, right? Asher Diber Moshe el Bnei Yisrael, Bar Midbar, Bar Avah, Mol Suf, Ben Parim, Ben Teifel, V'lavan Chaseres V'dizav, and Rashi says that all those different things are allusions to different stories that happened in the Midbar where Bnei Yisrael did something wrong, and Moshe Rabbeinu was giving them musar for it. So Devarim is the sefer, Moshe Rabbeinu gives them musar. So here too, he wants to give them musar about saying Hayesh Hashem b'Kibbeinu im Oyin. And again, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't. Amar Moshe. So Moshe Rabbeinu was going to say something to them about that. Amar Moshe, rather Moshe Rabbeinu said, Imani Omer liYisrael kach, if I say to them straight, if I say to them thusly, Harei ani megalas pneihem, I am going to reveal their faces. Which is another way of saying I'm going to embarrass them. I'm going to be malbin pnei chaveroi. So the Marzuba here says, what does it mean megalas pneim? I'm going to reveal their faces. It means when you embarrass somebody. So the Chazal tells us that when you embarrass him, so the blood in his face is flushed and his face turns all white like a ghost. So then you could see his you could see his face in a very clear way. So in other places in Chazal, embarrassing someone is called malbin pnei chaver, embarrassing him. I'll tell us in Avos, the mission Avos says that if a person embarrasses somebody, even if he has Torah and good deeds and everything, still in lechelik leilam haba. It's a serious thing to embarrass someone. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to say it straight out. He didn't want to say, you said Hayesh Hashem b'Kibbeinu im Oyin, and it's a bad thing. He didn't want to say it straight out to them because that would embarrass them. So he said it. He says he's going to say it in a more concealed, in a more hidden way.
That's what I have though. Malbin as Panem.
Oh, yeah, you have Malbin Panem.
And then bring the other one
Megale,
but the Chafili.
Okay, it's the same thing basically. The Radal is sort of bothered by, but he says what do you mean? But we find that Moshe Rabbeinu did give Bnei Yisrael teichacha on other things. So why over here dafka is it a problem? But the way I understand that, it's not. I'm not so bothered by this question because, as I mentioned before, Moshe Rabbeinu he also dressed up the other instances of teichacha as well. He didn't say it straight out. V'di zahav. How do you know what v'di zahav is? I don't know what v'di zahav is. You have to look at Rashi. It's not meforish in the pesukim. But the Radal himself doesn't take that approach. The Radal wants to say that no, this is different. I don't exactly understand why this should be different than the other cases, but that's the Radal in Eis Lamed Daled, if you ever want to look at it. Ella Omar, rather Moshe bin Ella, where are we? Ella Omar Moshe bin said, "Man Yisrael Yisrael can if I say it to Bnei Yisrael Kach, Harein Megalas Pneim, I'm going to be embarrass him. Megal upon him, Ein Lechelik Elam Haba. A person who embarrasses his fellow Jew, Ein Lechelik Elam Haba. It's a serious thing. You forfeit your portion in the world to come. So what am I going to do? Ella, rather Ani Omer Lehem Ma'aseh Amalek. I'm going to tell them, repeat to them the story of Amalek attacking them. And they're going to realize on their own what it said beforehand, that it says, and they're going to realize that was the reason why the story of Amalek happened, and then they'll be careful not to do it again.
He's referring to Parshas Kennite, when he is now repeating.
Right. When in Parshas Kisese, when he's repeating the story of Parshas B'Shalach, that's the tochacha for Bnei Yisrael saying Hayesh Hashem b'Kebeinu Oyin. And apparently, I guess in this way, if you sort of tell somebody off in a hidden way, you don't say it straight out, so you're not going to be embarrassing him because he's really figuring it out on his own. You're not saying straight out that what he did wrong. It doesn't hit him as hard. So what did Moshe ben? So the Medrash says like this: a mashal, lamad davar daima. What is this comparable to? Lamelach shahayile pardes echad, to a king or a sar. Different gersos says a sar, a king who had an orchard. He had his own orchard, or his own garden, whatever. V'kol sha'amelach bepesach pardes kelev, and the king tied a dog to the entrance to the orchard, a guard dog to make sure that no one trespasses. And the king is sitting over there on the roof of his palace. He's looking and watching over everything that's happening in his orchard. And what happens? The king's good friend comes into the orchard and he wants to steal some fruits from the orchard. And what happens? That dog that was tied to the entrance of the orchard, he comes and he attacks the king's friend. And tears the clothes of the king's friend. Omar HaMelech, the king said, next time I meet my friend, what am I going to say to him? Right? If I tell my friend, why did you go into my orchard? I'm going to embarrass him. If I say it straight out, why'd you go into the orchard? It's going to embarrass him. He knows he's not supposed to do it. So you can't tell him off straight. Rather, what I'm going to say to him, did you see that rabid dog? How it tore your clothing, and it didn't realize that you're my friend, And then the friend is going to realize, the concealed teichacha, that I really shouldn't have been going in there in the first place. But the king is not going to say it. You shouldn't go there. He's going to say look at that stupid dog. It went and attacked you. It didn't realize that you're my friend, and Batsima would allow you to go in there. But it's not. It wasn't. He wasn't saying Batsima would allow you to go in there. He didn't say those words. He's saying really you shouldn't have gone in there. So Kach Omar Moshe, so too Moshe Rabbeinu said, Harei ani omer liYisrael ma'aseh Amalek. I'm going to tell Bnei Yisrael over the story of Amalek attacking the Jews. And they will immediately realize what it says beforehand, where that the Jews were the consequence of saying Hayesh Hashem b'Kebeinu Oyin was that Amalek attacked them. The Fichach Omar Moshe, therefore Moshe Rabbeinu said, and this was learned it this morning, Zachar Eisa Shasalacha Amalek Badech B'Tzeschem Mitzrayim. You should remember what Amalek did to you when you came out of Mitzrayim, and that's a way of reminding the Jews of what they said beforehand of Hayesh Hashem b'Kebeinu Oyin. Fine. Omar La Yisrael, Klal Yisrael said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Moshe our teacher, Kosav Echad Omer Zachar Eisa Shasalacha Amalek. One pasuk says you should remember what Amalek did to you. And another pasuk says Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshei. You should remember the day of Shabbos to sanctify it. How can both of these things be true? This is Zachar and this is Zachar. So what's the question over here? Pashtus, the way I understand it, Pashtus, the question is, it's a funny thing to use the same terminology for both a positive and a negative thing. Remember this bad thing that happened when Amalek attacked you, and remember Shabbos, which is a good thing. So why would the Torah use the same wording for remembering a good thing and remembering a bad thing? That's the Pashtus, the way I understand it. The Marzu says a slightly different pshat. The Marzu, you have to know exactly how the Marzu understands it, and I have a shtickle answer to what the Marzu is sort of bothered with. But the Marzu says, they're bothered by like this. When we say Zochar Yom Shabbos L'Kadshay, so the Zechira of Shabbos is in order to bring you to a great mitzvah, to the kiyum of the mitzvahs of Shabbos. Shabbos is, Kol HaShemer is the Shabbos, Kilu Afilo Eisav Vedas Kechavim Kedar Shel Enaish, he's Mocholoi of Eisav, because it says Kol Shemer Shabbos Mechalaloi Umachzikim Bevrisi, then your affairs are forgiven. It's the Gemara in Shabbos. So like Shabbos is a very important thing. So the point of remembering Shabbos is so you can do the mitzvahs of Shabbos. But Amalek, what's the point of remembering Amalek? What's the mitzvah of Amalek? That's what the Marzu says is the question. So either the question is just in the terminology or in like the conceptual idea of like why by Shabbos are we trying to remember for a mitzvah, and where's the mitzvah of remembering Amalek? I mean, there's an obvious answer.
It's a mitzvah to remember Amalek, or it's a mitzvah to remember what Amalek did?
To remember what Amalek did. That's what. When I say mitzvah to remember Amalek, I mean remember what Amalek did. Yeah. Okay, so what's the answer? Amar lahem Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Loi daime kois shel Moshe Rabbeinu said to Klal Yisrael, Loi daime kois shel kunditun lechois shel chaymitz. A cup of kunditun, which is basically some sort of wine that's cooked with different spices, whatever. It's like a nice fancy drink. A cup of kunditun, of fancy wine, is not comparable to kishel chaymitz, to a cup of vinegar. Wine that became spoiled, it becomes like vinegar. Right? It's not comparable. Zekois for zekois. I say, this is a cup and this is a cup, so it's the same thing. No, they're completely disparate concepts. Zeb zochar lishmor ulakadesh yom Shabbos. This Zochar Shem Shabbos Zakadjai is in order to remember, to keep, and to sanctify the day of Shabbos. Shem Zochar Shem Shabbos Zakadjai. And when the second pasuk, when we're talking about Amalek, Zochar lahashmid lahachris is called Zari Shal Amalek. Here, the remembering is a remember to destroy and to cut off the descendants of Amalek. Shem Zochar Eisav Shalocha Amalek. So you're right. The way I understood the question, so Moshe Rabbeinu is answering. You're right. It's two different things. We use the same word zochar, but it's two different ideas. The way the Marzu explains it, I guess we would have to say that Shabbos has its mitzvah of zochar, so that you could do lishmor l'kadesh yom Shabbos, to sanctify and to keep the Shabbos, and Amalek has its mitzvah of zochar because you want to do the mitzvah of a separate mitzvah of destroying Amalek. It's a zechira in order to bring you to the mitzvah of mechias Amalek. There's a connection between the mitzvah of zechiras Amalek and the mitzvah of mechias Amalek. And I think I mentioned this when we did Parak Memtes. So over there we talk about Shmuel Navi killing Agag, the king of Amalek. So Shmuel Navi's last words before he killed him was Kasher Shikla Hashem Chabela Kenti Shakal. Right? And he said, just like your sword made Jewish women childless, so this sword will make your mother childless. So the Mepharshim are all bothered by why did Shmuel Navi have to say these words before he was about to kill the king of Amalek? What's the point? So I'm pretty sure they say this in the name of the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav says that the pshat is that there's a din that when you're doing mechias Amalek, you also have to do zechiras Amalek. The two things go together. It's a zechira that's part of the mechia. So right before you kill him, you should speak out, why am I killing you? I'm killing you because you killed us, so Hashem said we should destroy you. I mean, we'll speak a little bit about this in a few minutes, but it it helps the person maintain perspective. We're not stam killing Amalek. We're not stam just doing genocide for no reason because we hate them and we don't like them, so we want to kill them. There's a reason behind it. Hashem told us to destroy them, not stam because Hashem wants us to destroy them for a reason. We're going to see in a few minutes that there's an idea that if you kill somebody, even if you do it for a mitzvah, you're still a murderer, and it affects you. Fine. Another nukuda the Radal points out over here is a very interesting idea. Moshe Rabbeinu answered the question of what's the comparison between Shabbos and Amalek. Moshe Rabbeinu answered it with what? With a mashal of 2 cups. A cup of fancy wine and a cup of vinegar. He's like, oh, they're either 2 cups, so they should be the same thing. He says, no, the cups are holding something else, right? Just like the remembrance is holding a remembrance for the different ideas. So the idea of the cup, the Radal sort of expands on that. It says that it's actually a very appropriate mashal because both the mitzvah of Shabbos and the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek both have to do with a cup. By Shabbos, we take wine and we drink wine. That's the mitzvah of Zochar Yom Shabbos Akadshei, means Zachreu al Yayin, make kiddush on a cup of wine. So that's the cup that we use for Shabbos, and the cup that we use for Amalek is obviously the simcha and the mishnah that we have on Purim by the downfall of Haman. So there you have another cup of wine. So it's an appropriate mashal. So the Radal says. Fine. Now the next 4 words. These 4 words are somewhat problematic. It's a question of exactly how to read it. But Pashta, first of all, the Ksav Yad edition, the manuscript, the Higger edition, doesn't have these 4 words b'chal, so he takes it out. But the way it would seem to be going on what we just said. Remember Amalek, and when you go to Eretz Yisrael, don't forget Amalek. Don't forget to take care of Amalek. That's what it seems to be saying. And in fact, the Radal says it makes a diuk from that. It sounds like the mitzvah of Amalek, of Zechiras Amalek, is dependent on going into Eretz Yisrael. Meaning, was there a mitzvah of remembering Amalek, let's say, before they came into Eretz Yisrael, in the Midbar? Was there a mitzvah? It sounds like not. Or let's say maybe nowadays. Nowadays we're not in our... Nowadays we're not necessarily now, but like let's say when we're in Golus, after the destruction of Eisav, or whatever, is there a mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek? Maybe not. It sounds like not, because it says, when you go into the land, don't forget that the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek is dependent on being in Eretz Yisrael. The mitzvah of destroying Amalek is for sure dependent on Eretz Yisrael. The Rambam says in Hilchos Melachim. But the mitzvah of Zechira, the Medrash here sounds like it's dependent on being in Eretz Yisrael. But the Radal says that the Rambam, both in Sefer Mitzvahs and in Hilchos Melachim, sounds like the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek is continuous. It's always. It's every time, every place. You always have that mitzvah. The Sefer Chinuch says that the mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek could be you could be yotze with it 1 or 2 or 3 times a year. You don't have to remember it every single day. But the Rambam seems to be saying that every day there's a mitzvah of Zechiras Amalek. That's why some people say the parsha of Amalek every day after daven, after Shachris. But that's the way we have the girsa. That's a continuation of the commandment. The Rabbi Yomi Izmir in V'lo Yoed Ella has a different girsa, and also Rav Chaim Falachi also has this girsa. It's going on the next line that we're about to say. It's supposed to say like this: Kishabao Yisrael la'aretz, when Bnei Yisrael came into Eretz Yisrael, shachachu lahachris lahashmid is called Zarish Amalek. They forgot to cut off and destroy all the descendants of Amalek. I just noticed over here it says lahachris ulahashmid, and earlier we just said lahashmid ulahachris. We switched the order of cutting off and destroying, and we said destroying and cutting off. I don't know what the significance of that is. Yeah.
It's called Zaro Shalom. That's a pasuk. No,
no.
It's called Zaro Shalom. No, that's
the pasuk just says Zachor. It says Machai Timcha. It doesn't say Lahashmid or Lahachris.
Also, wait a minute, but Amalek wasn't in Eretz Yisrael. Amalek is outside.
No, right, but when you go to Eretz Yisrael, then you're obligated to get rid of them.
That sounds like they're there. So get rid of them now.
No, meaning until you're settled and you went to your homeland or whatever. Then so we're not going to be. First you have to have maybe you could say from a practically military perspective. First, you have to set up your base of operations. Now you have Eretz Yisrael. You settled Eretz Yisrael. Everything is beseder. Now you can build your army to go fight someone outside. But until you're settled, then you're not obligated to fight Amalek. Something like that. Al Kapanim, so Bnei Yisrael came into Eretz Yisrael and they forgot to go destroy Amalek. What do you mean they forgot? They forgot? How can you forget? What does that mean? You forgot? We'll explain in a minute. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't forget. Obviously, he didn't forget. There's no such thing as forgetting regarding Hashem. Okay. Shaul, when Shaul became the king, Shmuel Hanavi said to him, Koimar Hashem tzvakos pokadati. Hashem said to, so says Hashem tzvakos pokadati. Remembered what Amalek did. Ata lech v'kisas Amalek. Go and smite Amalek. So Shmuel Hanavi came to Shaul HaMelech and gave him a specific nevuah that now go and destroy Amalek. Ata, now go. Until then, Klal Yisrael didn't do it. How long was it from when Klal Yisrael came in to Eretz Yisrael until Shaul HaMelech became king? Something like 300 years. Like the whole Sefer Shoftim is that era. It's like something like 300 years or so. They didn't go fight Amalek until Shaul became Shmuel Hanavi gave it nevuah specifically to Shaul HaMelech. Go out and fight them. You should fight them. Ad mashtin. We'll speak it out in a minute. What were they thinking? Ad mashtin bekir, until those who urinate on the wall. That's the lashon of the pasuk. It's not the lashon of the pasuk. Sorry, it says until all those who urinate on the wall. That's not the lashon of the pasuk. The pasuk says meish ve'ad isha me'oilal ad yonik mishor ad se migomal ad chamor. The pasuk says man, from man to woman, from child to nursing kid, from ox to sheep, from camel till donkey. That's what it says in the pasuk. So it says all men, women, children, and animals. That's what it says in the pasuk. Here the Medrash says mashtin bikir, all those who urinate on the wall. So what does it mean, those who urinate on the wall? So this expression mashtin bikir is found in the psukim in other contexts. In Sefer Malachim, there were three kings. There were more than three kings, but there were three kings that did not behave properly. Malchi Yisrael that did not behave properly, and the Navi told them, the different Nevi'im told them that they will be destroyed. Their whole family will be destroyed. Yeravam, Pasha, and Achav, their entire families were wiped out. And the Nevuah that prophesied that those families would be wiped out said, Mashtin Bikir, those who urinate on the wall. Now, the Mefarshim explain in those contexts that those who urinate on the wall is referring to all the males. Because women can't necessarily urinate on the wall. They're just not physiologically built to be able to do such a feat. Right? But it's talking about specifically the men. And the biggest raya is because Achav had a daughter, Pasha, she was his daughter, whose name was Asaliyahu, and she became the queen of Malchus Yehuda, and all the Malchus Yehuda afterwards were her grandson became king after her, and they were all her descendants, right? So all the Malchus Yehuda were her descendants. She's a descendant of Achav, she should be killed. The nevuah that said that Achav's family would be wiped out was never in the Skayim. No, the nevuah only applied to the males of the family of Achav, and she wasn't a male. Mashin Bekir only is referring to males. So now it's very difficult to say that when our Medrash here uses the phrase Mashtin Bekir, it's referring to the males. Because that's not true. There's no such thing that you only kill out the males of Amalek. You kill the men, women, children, animals, not just the males. So why does it say Mashtin Bekir? It's a problematic phrase over here. So the Radal wants to say that, and we actually do find that in Chazal tell us that Yoav, who was the Sar Tzava of Shaul, I believe, before he became the Sar Tzava of David Melech, so he made a mistake and he thought that you only have to kill the Zohar of Amalek, the males of Amalek. And then there was a mistake because you're really supposed to kill male and female, and women and children and animals or whatever. But it's a mistake to say that it's talking about only Mashtin Bekir. But so the Radal says that you have to say that Mashtin Bekir in this context refers to animals. If you ever see a dog on the sidewalk by a fire extinguisher, right? So they could be Mashtin Bekir. The animals could do that. So that's what it's referring to. It's referring to animals. And when we're saying animals, so that obviously that means men, women, children, and even animals. that's the way I would understand it. Now, the Radha doesn't say this, but I want to add, maybe you could say that the Medrash means to say that... No, let's not say this. Okay, I don't want to say this. Okay, fine. So that's the point. So Shmuel Levi gave a special nevuah to Shaul HaMelech that he should destroy him. So the shaila is like this. Why didn't they go and destroy Amalek beforehand? The mitzvah was, when you go to Eretz Yisrael, destroy Amalek. So why did they wait 300 years? What happened? What were they thinking? So Rabbi Leo, okay, so Rabbi Leo Me'izber says a vart. I have a problem with the vart, but he says a vart over here to answer the question. The vart is predicated on another vart. The pasuk says by Yaakov Avinu, when Yaakov Avinu met Eisav in Parshas Vayishlach, so it says Vayira Yaakov Vayetzaloi. Yaakov Avinu was scared and he was distressed. Vayira Vayetzaloi. So what's this double lashon? He was scared and he was distressed. So Rashi in Chumash says Vayira Shelo Yeharig. He was scared because he didn't want to get killed in his encounter with Eisav. Vayetzaloi, he was distressed. Shelo Yarig Hu Esacherim. So he was distressed so that he won't go and kill somebody else. So Mepharshim are bothered. What do you mean? What's Rashi saying? Yaakov Avinu was scared that he might kill somebody. Who's he going to? He's going to kill Eisav, right? So what's the problem? You kill Eisav. Eisav is a Russia. He's supposed to be killed. He's your enemy. He deserves to be killed. Why are you scared that you might kill him? What's the problem with killing Eisav? So I heard from Rav Nehemiah Kaplan, Shlita. He's a son-in-law of Rav David Soloveitchik. I used to go to his Chumash when I was a bacher. So he wanted to say, Chumash here? Okay, whatever. I don't need a Chumash. He wanted to say, he wanted to say that the pshat is like this. Yaakov Avinu realized. What is this? Yeah, in Parshas Re'eh, so in Parshas Re'eh, the Torah tells us about something called Ira Nidachas. The halacha of Ira Nidachas is if the people of the city do avodah zarah, so you have to kill the city, wipe them all out, and all the property in the city, destroy it. Don't let any of the contraband stick to your hand. Leman yashuv Hashem echarin apai, so Hashem will return from His anger. V'nasan lacha rachamim v'richamcha v'yirpecha, and Hashem will give you rachman, will give you rachamim, will give you mercy, and you'll have mercy, and you'll become fruitful. Kashanish balavisecha, like Hashem promised to your forefathers. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh over there in that pasuk is bothered by, what do you mean? If you destroy an Ira Nitachas, Hashem is going to give you rachamim. What does that mean? Hashem is going to give you rachamim. Why is Hashem giving you rachamim? So the Orach Chaim says like this. I'll read his words because I happen to have a Mikras Gedolos. Kavanas Maimer Zekan. This is pasuk Yud Gimel, Perak Yud Gimel, pasuk Yud Ches. Kavanas Maimer Zekan. The intent of this pasuk over here is to tell you Lefishetziva al Ir Nidachas Shiargu Kol Ha'ir Lefi Chorev, because the Torah had commanded you to destroy, to kill an Ir Nidachas according to the sword. You kill out the whole thing. Vafila behemton, even their animals. And Ma'isa hazeh yerli teva hachzarias belev adam. Such an action brings cruel nature in the heart of a person. It makes you into a cruel person. Right? So for this reason, Omar Havtacha Shitan Hashem Rachamim. For this reason, the pasuk says that when you kill a Yer Nidachas, Hashem gives you Rachamim. He gives you extra Rachamim, saying that even though you're doing a mitzvah, you're killing people from the Yer Nidachas, it's a big mitzvah, still, just the fact that you killed somebody desensitizes you and makes it that now you're a murderer. You killed a person. It makes you into the type of person who can now be a killer. So Hashem is saying that if you do wipe out the people of the Ir Nidachas, so you'll get a special rachamim. Now, we don't necessarily find that the pasuk says that by the mitzvah of destroying Amalek. It just says it by Ir Nidachas. So if Nehemiah Kaplan wanted to say that was Yaakov Avinu's hesitation, he was scared that he might end up killing somebody else. He might end up, if he kills Eisav, no, that's not a problem. But if he kills Eisav, now he becomes a murderer and he becomes an achzar, he becomes a cruel person. That's what Yaakov Avinu wanted to avoid. So that's what he was scared of. That's what Nehemiah Kaplan Shlita's Vart. But Rabbi Yomei Izmir says a different pshat. And they bring this pshat, I found this in the Kerem Tzvi in Parshas Vayishlach b'shem the Gra. Another sefer Pninim Yikarim, Hungarian. It was a popular sefer before the war. On Chumash Pninim Yikarim, the Mechaber was killed in the war, I believe, and I found it also in some Chassidish Sfarim b'shem the Kotzker. A different. What does it mean that Yaakov Avinu was scared? Shelo yahareg hu asacherim, that he won't kill others. Who's acherim? So the Gemara says, who's acherim? In other contexts, who's acherim? Acherim is Rabbi Meir. Right? Whenever there's a bright says Rabbi Yehuda says this, acherim, and whatever. So the Gemara says acherim is Rabbi Meir. Why is Rabbi Meir called Acherim? Because he was a Talmud of Elisha ben Avuya, and Elisha ben Avuya was called Acher. So Meir is called Acherim because he took the good things from Elisha ben Avuya and he threw out the bad. Zarek is a Kafrisin, something like that. He threw out the bad things. He took the good things from Elisha ben Avuya and he said over halachas. So because of that, Rabbi Meir is sometimes masked in Mishnayos and in Braises. He's called Acherim. Right? So when Rashi says that Yaakov Avinu was scared that he doesn't want to kill Eisav, Shelo Yareg es Acherim, he was scared that he might kill Rabbi Meir. Acherim is Rabbi Meir. What's the Havana? The Havana is because Rabbi Meir is the Gemara in Gittin says that Rabbi Meir was a descendant of Eisav. Meir was a descendant of Eisav. He's from Gerim or whatever.
And Gittin, it's in the seaport. Not Nebuchadnezzar did tshuva and became someone else. One of the
we'll go. Let's take that. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Like Nun He or something.
Nun Vav. But yeah, very good. So the Gemara in Gittin says that Meir was a descendant of Eisav. So these Mefarshim, the Gra and the other Mefarshim, the Pninim Yikarim, they all say that the pshat is that Yaakov Avinu was scared that he might end up killing Eisav, and then we won't have Rabbi Meir because Rabbi Meir is Acherim, he's a descendant of Eisav. See, so that was Yaakov Avinu's hesitation that he didn't want to have to kill Eisav. So, based on this, Rabbi Yomi Izmir says that's why, that for the same reason that Yaakov Avinu was scared of killing Eisav, Klal Yisrael was scared of wiping out Amalek. They didn't want to kill Amalek right when they came into Eretz Yisrael because they also knew that Rabbi Meir was going to be a descendant of Eisav, and they didn't want to by mistake kill the progenitor of Rabbi Meir. So because of that, they waited with the mission. It's a cute part. One second, I'll tell you the bomb question on the part in a minute. But because of that, they delayed carrying out the mitzvah of destroying Amalek until Shmuel and Avi gave a nevuah that no, at all leich v'kisas Amalek. Now you could go kill Amalek, which Rabbi Yomi Izra says that now. You don't have to worry about Rabbi Meir because now that branch of Eisav's family that's going to convert and join, and Rabbi Meir is going to be a descendant of that. They already joined Klal Yisrael. So whoever Rabbi Meir is going to be a descendant of is already Jewish. He's already part of Klal Yisrael. So you could destroy Amalek. You don't have to worry about Rabbi Meir. That's what Rabbi Yomi understands. It's a cute word that he says over here. Now the problem is this. I think it's a big problem. The problem is that I inaccurately quoted the Gemara in Gittin. The Gemara in Gittin does not say that Rabbi Meir is a descendant of Eisav. It says even better. It says Rabbi Meir was the descendant of Nero and Caesar, of Emperor Nero, famous for playing the fiddle while Rome was being burnt down.
That's right. He burned it.
Right. So Chazal tells us that Nero he ran away and he became a ger. Now, the historians tell us the same thing. It says that Nero ran away, became crazy, and ran away. I hold that that's mamish congruent with what Chazal tell us. They can't say that he became Jewish, so they say he went crazy and he ran away. Yeah. But that's what Chazal says. He ran away and he became Jewish. And Rabbi Meir is a descendant of Nero. So you can't say that, by the time of Shmuel and Navi, that branch that Rabbi Meir is going to be a descendant from already broke off of Amalek. It's not true. He's a descendant of Nero. Nero is going to come about 1,000 years later.
Nero is Edom. Amalek is Edom, meaning it's in the Mishpacha.
Right, he's still part of the Mishpacha all the way down till Emperor Nero. And Rabbi Meir lived, maybe 100 years after Nero, so it would seem that Rabbi Meir was like a grandson or great grandson of Nero. Not more than that. Okay, it's a cute vart. To explain the hesitation of Bnei Yisrael to fight Amalek. It's a cute vart, but it has difficulties. Well, let's go weiter. V'lokach Shaul as Kol Anshe HaMilchama v'yatzeh l'kras Amalek. Shaul took all the men of war, meaning all the soldiers, to go out and greet Amalek, meaning to go battle with them. Ucheshaba Shaul le'emtza derech Amad Mahar B'libai. When Shaul got to the middle of the road, he stopped and he started thinking in his head. Shneimar, it says the pasuk, Vayavay Shaul ad ir Amalek. Shaul came till the city of Amalek. Vayarev banachal, and he started fighting in the Nachal, in the wadi. So what does it mean? He was fighting in the wadi. So Chazal tell us, Gemara in Shabbos, Nun Vav Amid Beis, the Gemara in Yuma, Chaf Beis Amid Beis. What it says, what does it mean? Vayarev banachal. He was fighting in the wadi. Al iske nachal. He was fighting Kibiyochel Hashem in a way. He was fighting against Hashem. Al iske nachal, about the matter of the wadi. What's the matter of the wadi? It's talking about Egla Rufa, because it says Egla Rufa banachal. You're supposed to put the Egla Rufa in the nachal, in the wadi. Right? So the Gemara over there says that Shaul HaMelech came up with the following reasoning. He said, just like the Torah is makbid on the death of one person, that if you don't know who killed him, so everyone needs a kapara and you have to do an Egla Rufa. So for the death of multiple people, for sure the Torah would be particular about it, to be makbid about it, and wouldn't want such a thing to happen. So how could I go out and kill Amalek? The Torah wouldn't want the death of so many people. That's what that's the faulty reasoning of Shaul HaMelech. He didn't want people to. We see that the spirit of the law is that the Torah doesn't want people to be killed. So how could I go out and kill Amalek? The Torah doesn't want people to be killed. Vayarev banochal.
Doesn't the Torah say kill Amalek?
Yeah.
What does he mean the Torah doesn't want? The Torah says.
So like this. Another nukud is like this. The Radal says that it says that he went to the Vayar Banachal. He went to the Nachal. So the Nachal. What's the wadi? Which wadi? What wadi? So he says that maybe it's referring to Nachal Eisan, because the pasuk says by Egla Rufa that you should put the body of the calf in Nachal Eisan. Put it in Nachal Eisan. So I want to tell you that that's true only if. And he brings the pasuk because it says when Bilam was giving his prophecies at the end of Parshas Balak, he gave prophecies about multiple nations. So he said about the Canim, he said Eisan Moshevecha, you live at Eisan, and we're going to see that the Canim lived together with the Amalekites. So that means that Amalek also lived at a place called Eisan. So the Radal wants to say that this place, this wadi that Shaul stopped to go fight against Amalek, was Nachal Eisan, where the Egla Rufa is supposed to be done. Nachal Eisan. Now I tell you that it's not Mukhrach, because first of all, it's a machlekes rishonim. What does it mean Nachal Eisan? Is Nachal Eisan the name of a specific place? Nachal Eisan, let's say Eisan Wadi, or does Nachal Eisan, the word Eisan is not a proper noun? It's a regular noun. And what? Or it's an adjective. Let's say Eisan means the strong one, the strong place. Nachal Eisan would just mean the wadi that's like very rocky. It's like a strong place. You have to be like tough to traverse such a place, right? So Nachal Eisan doesn't mean a place, a specific place. It means in general that type of area, that type of rocky valley, wadi, river type area. And of course, obviously, I don't have to say this, but we see the name Eisan. Avraham Avinu is called Eisan HaEzrachi, right? The strong one. Avraham Avinu is called the strong one. The Rambam says in the beginning of Hilchos Avodah Zarah, because he was able to fight everyone else. He go against the current, so he had to be very strong. Also, the Piyutim on Rosh Hashanah, Avraham Avinu is called Eisan HaEzrachi, and in fact, Tishrei is called Yerach HaEsanim, the strong month. Yerach means literally means moon, but it means month. Yerach Eisanim, the strong month. Tishrei is called the strong month because it has all these Yomim Tovim in it: Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeres, etc. All these things. So it's stronger than all the other months because it can hold all these Yomim Tovim together. So if Nachal Eisan means it's just a description of a place, it's not a specific place. So it's not mukhrach to say that that Shaul went to Dafka, the place where they had the Egla Rufa. Whatever. Okay, so what does Shaul HaMelech do? Omar Shaul, continuing to the Medrash is continuing to explain what was Shaul HaMelech's faulty reasoning. Omar Shaul said like this: Im ha'anashim chatu, hanashim mechatu. If the men sinned, with what did the women sin? Meaning, the Radal is going to explain each line over here. The men sinned because they came out and did war against Klal Yisrael, right? Fine, so the men sinned, but the women didn't come out and fight Klal Yisrael. The women didn't do any sin. Chazal tell us that women are pater from Puravu because the pasuk says, "Puravu milu aretz v'chivshua," and conquer the land, right? Be fruitful, multiply the land, and conquer the land. What does it mean, conquer the land? It means conquer the land. Make war and stake out your position, etc. And Gemara Yevamah says that women are exempt from the middle Puravu because they don't conquer the land. They're lab b'nei kibush ninu. They don't fight. Women aren't supposed to be part of the army, right? So Shaul is saying, well, okay, the men came and they fought, but the women, they didn't fight. So what did they do? They didn't do any sin. So why should I kill out the women of Amalek? And then he says, okay, fine. But you know what? The Torah says, yeah, we have to kill the women, so fine. We'll kill the women. Im hanashim chatu, if the women are guilty, they deserve to be killed, even though you'll say the women, they deserve to be killed for a different reason. Gemara Yevamah, on a different place, in Ayin Ches, the Gemara says that it is the nature or the responsibility of women to go out and bring supplies to travelers, bring bread and water to people who are traveling. And the women of Amalek failed to do that. Right? So you could say that they're guilty in that way. The women of Amalek are guilty in that way. So if the women are guilty for that, but the children, you can't expect the children to come out and bring bread and water. So why should we kill the children? So maybe we shouldn't kill the children. No, but the Torah says we should. So what are we going to do? If the children are also guilty, they also deserve to be killed. Why? Because they're included in the general nation of Amalek, and if the men and women are guilty, so okay, we're going to throw in the kids too, because they're all part of one unit, so they also be killed. But why should we kill the animals? What did the animals sin? They didn't do anything. Animals don't have das b'chlal. So why are the animals guilty? Why should we kill the animals? And as we're going to see later on in Parak Mem Tes, Shaul failed to kill the animals of Amalek. So he didn't kill the animals. He decided he's not going to kill the animals, right? So the Medrash says, "Yotzas a bas koil," a heavenly voice came out, v'amar aloi, and it said to Shaul Melech, "Shaul, al tehi tzadik yoser mikoincha." Shaul, don't be a righteous person. Don't be a saint more so than your Kennite, than your owner, than the one who owns the world. Don't be, it's saying, don't be frumer than Hashem, or as we say in English, don't be holier than the Pope, right? The other girsa is, the bicycle has a different girsa. Al tehit tzadik harbe. Don't be such a big tzadik. There's a pasuk in Koheles. Don't be such a big tzadik. The Torah says do it, you should do it. Don't start saying, I'm better. I'm a bigger tzadik. I'm more rachmanis than the Torah has. The Torah says don't kill people, and it says kill Amalek. I'm gonna be machmer. I'm gonna not kill Amalek because I want to be machmer and rachmanis. Chazal tells us in other places that a person who has rachmanis on somebody who deserves to be treated cruelly will end up being cruel to people who deserve rachmanis, and that was fulfilled with Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech had rachmanis on Amalek, who really he should have acted cruelly to, and it ended up that to his own son-in-law, he tried to kill his own son-in-law, and he was rid of him and chased after him, and he ended up acting cruelly to the person he should have been acting nicely to. That's the nature of the world. And I'm not going to say anything about modern day liberalism, but you can extrapolate the different ideas from that as well. The pasuk says when Shmuel Navi chastises Shaul HaMelech, he says, they have animal rights, but what about people's rights? They don't. It's more important to not hurt an animal than it is. It's more important to not cut down a tree than it is that children should have paper to write their homework on. Okay, what's more important? I'll put it when Shmuel Navi is chastising Shaul HaMelech, so he says, "Lama lo shemata b'kol Hashem." Why didn't you listen to the voice of Hashem? So Radal says that's an allusion to this baskol that said to Shaul HaMelech, "Al tehi tzadik harbe," or "Al tehi tzadik yes b'kol." Don't be such a tzadik. Just listen to what the Torah says without your own cheshbonis. And Shaul HaMelech had failed to heed the words of that baskol. Rabbi Omer. Now we'll go on to a different point over here in the story of Shaul HaMelech fighting against Amalek. Rabbi Omer, Kishabah Shaul Machane Amalek, when Shaul came to the camp of Amalek, Ra b'nei Yisro misarvin b'seich Machane Amalek. He saw the descendants of Yisro that were mixed into the camp of Amalek. Right? Yisro had multiple names. Yisro, Kennite, Reuel, Chaver, Chayvav, etc. Amar lahem, so Shaul HaMelech said to the descendants of Yisro, he said, separate yourselves from within the camp of Amalek. Shinamar, it says in the pasuk, Vayomer Shaul ela Kennite. Shaul said to the Kennite, and Kennite is another word for Yisro, descendants of Yisro. He said to them, L'chu, go, suru, remove yourselves, redu mitoich Amaleki, and go down from the midst of Amalek, of the Amalekites. Pen oisivcha imoy, lest I destroy you with Amalek. And the end of the pasuk says, "V'ata asisa chesedim kol Yisrael," and you had done kindness to all of Bnei Yisrael, so therefore we don't want to kill you. So make sure that you separate yourselves from Amalek, so we won't end up killing you by mistake. Says the Medrash, "V'chiim kol Bnei Yisrael also Yisrael chesed." What do you mean? V'ata asisa chesedim kol Yisrael. You did chesed with all Bnei Yisrael, so therefore we don't want to destroy you. What do you mean? Did Yisro do chesed with all Bnei Yisrael? V'haloi loy asa ela im Moshe bilvad. Yisro didn't do chesed to all Bnei Yisrael, only did chesed to Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? What did he do? He took Moshe Rabbeinu into his house when Moshe Rabbeinu was running away from Paro. When Moshe Rabbeinu ended up in Midian, Yisro took him into his house. He gave him his daughter, etc. So why does it say that Yisro did chesed to all of Bnei Yisrael? He only did chesed to Moshe Rabbeinu. Ella, rather, mikanat olamed. From here you learn shekolo eisa chesed im echad megedolei Yisrael, that anyone who does kindness to one of the gedolei Yisrael, to one of the important people of Bnei Yisrael, ki'ilu also chesed im kol Yisrael. It's as if he did chesed to all of Bnei Yisrael collectively, and because of that, Shaul didn't want that any Canaan should be injured in the battle with Amalek, so he told them to separate themselves. Because of the kindness that Yisro did with Moshe, his children were saved from sharing the same fate as Amalek. It says the pasuk, "Bayasar Keni mitech Amalek." The Keni removed themselves from within Amalek, and Amalek was killed, and the Canaan survived. And in fact, the Canaan were still alive, hundreds of years later, when Yehu Melech Yisrael decides to wipe out the worshippers of Baal. So he joins up with the Canaan, when the Canaan were big Kanoim. Kanoi, they were big Kanoim for Hashem. And they join him in the fight against the Baal to spread the worship of Hashem and get rid of the worshippers of Baal. Okay, so the story basically ends over here. The continuation of the story of the fight against Amalek in the time of Shaul and Shmuel and Avi, Shaul Malach and Shmuel and Avi, continues later on in Parak Mem Tes, which we did previously, and Ayin Sham. Now the Medrash says, goes on to a slightly different topic. Rabbi Yossi says, and Rabbi Yossi says like this: Kishabas Sancheiriv Eretz Yisrael, when Sancheiriv, the king of Ashur, came to Eretz Yisrael, and he was conquering, the Assyrian king was going around the world, conquering the whole world. So, Ro kol ha'amim shebesvivos Eretz Yisrael es machanei Sancheiriv. All the nations, the neighboring nations that surrounded Klal Yisrael, saw the camp of Sancheiriv v'nisaru ma'id, and they were very scared. Uvarchu ish mimekayma, and each nation ran away from its place. Shneimar, it says in the pasuk, the Vuah of Yeshaya, it says, "V'asir gevules amim," I will remove the borders of the nations. V'asudeiseyam shreiseisi, and their Rashi says that it's referring to their stance. They're like, their prominence. I'm gonna get rid of their prominence, right? I'm gonna destroy the borders of the nations and get rid of prominence. V'nichnasu lamidbar, and they all went into the desert, into the wilderness. V'nisarvu and bnei Yishmael, and they mixed into the descendants of Yishmael. V'chula masara amim, and these altogether are 10 nations. Shinema, it says in the pasuk, Oy halei Edom, that's 1. V'Yishmaelim, that's 2. Moav, 3. V'Hagrim, 4. Gvol, which is Biblios, which is in Lebanon, whatever. Gvol, that's 5. V'Amoin, that's 6. V'Amalek is 7. Pleshes, the Philistines, that's 8. Im Yeshvei Tsar, with the inhabitants of Tsar, which is also in Lebanon, Tyre. Gam Asher Nilva Imam. And also Assyria joined with them, that's 10. These are the 10 nations that mixed into, I guess, with Yishmael in the wilderness. They became like nomadics, I guess. And all of the 10 of these nations are destined to fall in the hands of Ben David, in the hands of Mashiach. Shenemar Elikai Shisemai Kagalgal. Fine. That's basically that's the end of the parak. The shaila is, why does the Medrash bring this piece over here that seemingly has nothing to do with what we're talking about? So what do you think?
Maybe even though it doesn't say that these people were mixed with Amalek. Amalek is in there were Alikai in the area. Everyone was just sort of mixed together. First of all, it just talked about how the descendants of Yisro were mixed with Amalek, and now it's talking about another mixing.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some sort of shaykhs there.
Okay, so yeah, those are the two pshatim that we have over here. The Marzuz says basically that we're bringing this medrash because we mentioned these 10 nations, and one of those 10 nations is Amalek. So this is sort of like telling you the end of Amalek. That's what the Marzuz says, and I wanted to say something similar to what you're saying. We just got finished saying that the Canaan who were mixed into Amalek separated themselves so that Saul could fight only Amalek. So now we're saying that in the future, all these nations are going to get mixed in together. They're going to leave their place of inhabitants and then go somewhere else and get mixed in. Just like the Canaan left their place of inhabitants to separate from Amalek, all these other nations are going to leave their place of inhabitants to get mixed into the other nations.
And Amalek is mixed in with all of them.
Right. Yeah. And that's why nowadays if you meet it's a concept, they say. That's that's why if you meet a guy, are you mechuyev to kill him? Maybe he's a Amalek. No, because they're mixed in. Whatever. There's different answers. Why not? But
it could be still. He has
elements.
Zera out there. It's just there's some in every, it's all a big ibuvia.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Sure.
Coming.